The more you didn't like it, the more I enjoyed it. I fucking loved how much you hated it. Turned me on. Are you seriously so offended I strangled you a little bit? You didn't fucking pass out. In all the women I've ever slept with, not a single one has ever bitched or complained like you are bitching and complaining now.
Speaking of criminality, somebody else is in a little bit of trouble with the law, and that is alpha male mega superstar online, Andrew Tate, who has actually been arrested in Romania, where he lives, on charges of suspected sexual assault and human trafficking even. So we're going to discuss this because unfortunately, some people on the right are really digging in and defending him, even though some of his comments and attitudes are pretty toxic, and even though there's some weight behind some of the charges against him. But first, guys, just here's a quick refresher on who Andrew Tate is, courtesy of a rather bombshell Vice documentary that just dropped, outlining his rise and the allegations against him.
Andrew Tate is an Anglo-American kickboxer turned influencer whose extreme misogynist videos have helped make him the most viral man in the world.
Bang out the machete, boom in her face, and grip her up by the neck. Like, shut up, bitch!
If you haven't heard of Andrew Tate yet, it's only a matter of time before he pops up on your newsfeed. His videos have been viewed over 11 billion times, and in July he was more Googled than Kim Kardashian and Donald Trump. He's been called the king of toxic masculinity.
He has said that rape victims should, quote, bear responsibility for being raped.
Yeah, so Hannah, Andrew Tate has said some pretty aggressive things about women and being property, and he actually got banned from Twitter years ago for suggesting that women have some responsibility or role when they are raped. And so just a heads up, talking about this guy and this whole conversation is going to be both discussing sexual assault, which can be upsetting for people, and also some of the clips we're going to roll are incredibly profane, and there's really no way to ameliorate that. So if you don't want to hear some vulgar language, now's the time to switch the radio dial in the car. But I think we knew something was a little sus with this guy because he actually got started on Big Brother. And listen to this clip from the documentary on something that happened while he was on that reality show in the UK.
When a video surfaced of him slapping his ex-girlfriend and then beating her with a belt.
Hey, you stupid bitch. I didn't say the word listen. Did I say listen? Did I say listen? No. Did I say it?
Public outrage simmered down after Andrew released a video of his ex, claiming it was all part of a so-called kinky game.
It was just pure game. It's just what we used to do.
But what the public didn't know, and what we can now reveal, is that around the time that Andrew was playing Truth or Dare in the Big Brother pool, the UK police had informed the production company that he was under investigation for 2 incidents involving other women. One of rape, and a further of physical assault.
So, Hannah, I know that this woman has come out and said after the fact that, it was consensual, but that seems sus to me. That doesn't seem like normal relationship healthy behavior of someone who respects women.
No, I mean, people are free to have their kinks, but my sniff test is always off in these kinds of situations because I've worked around the criminal justice system to the extent where I've seen this, right? The vast majority of women who are abused do not want to see themselves as abuse victims. It's almost as simple as that, right? You will hear women who've been raped use almost every other word to describe their rape besides rape. You'll see them deny things for years. It is so traumatizing as a woman to have these things perpetrated against you, especially if they fall into the public eye and people start discussing it openly, that a lot of women will do anything they can to explain it away to themselves. And, if they're still sort of with the abuser, they'll often recant. We see this with domestic abuse all the time, where women will, or men too sometimes, but women will call the police over domestic dispute, and then when they find out that they have to actually be the one to press charges against them, they will recant and pull back and refuse to participate. And that is for a number of reasons. One, often they're afraid of their abuser, rightfully so. The more money and power and influence a person has, the more fear I think a person has to come out against them. But secondarily, many people still love their abusers, right? I think a lot of people who've never been in an abusive situation or seen them up close see it as very black and white, right? Like, you would just leave. Why would you take it? It's like, because abuse comes after a lot of mental, emotional abuse that usually breaks down a person, that makes them very attached to the abuser, often that makes them very dependent on the abuser, both emotionally and financially. And so there are all kinds of reasons that victims do not come forward, that they recant, that they fold, that they lie. And it is one factor that makes it very difficult to prosecute these cases. I have a lot of criticism for cops and prosecutors on how infrequently they solve rape cases, how they don't even test rape cases a lot of the time. But on the other hand, they are often very difficult cases to prosecute and take to court because of those factors.
Yeah, but some women are coming forward, and that's what this Vice documentary focused on. Two women have come forward, one who accuses Andrew Tate of sexual assault and another one who accuses him of physical abuse. The first woman is using the pseudonym Amelia, and they're concealing her identity because they really do fear retaliation from Tate's fans. And he has this super rabid, I can't describe how intense his fan base is online. Some of it is a cult. In this Vice documentary, you see people who pay for this thing called the War Room, where they travel to Romania. They pay $5,000 for these group sessions he does with his men, where he makes them go in the ring with a professional fighter and get beat up, and they all cheer and toast to the top G. It is culty. But anyway, Amelia, here are her comments describing the experience that she allegedly had with Tate.
Started to make out on the bed. Out of the blue, he literally just stopped what he was doing and just laid back. He said, "I'm just contemplating whether I should rape you or not." And I promise you, within an instant, he changed. He just jumped straight on top of me, grabbed my throat, started suffocating me, strangling me. The more I didn't want to, it made him so much more aggressive, to the point where he was pinning me down, hurting me. The things he was saying to me, he was like, "Who do you belong to? Who do you belong to?" And the more I couldn't say it, the more he'd hurt me. So I couldn't see an escape.
And she's not just saying this, she actually also has a voice note from Tate that is kind of disturbing. Take a listen. This is his voice.
The more you didn't like it, the more I enjoyed it. I fucking loved how much you hated it. Turned me on. Are you seriously so offended I strangled you a little bit? You didn't fucking pass out. And all the women I've ever slept with, not a single one has ever bitched or complained like you are bitching and complaining now.
What's more, she also showed WhatsApp messages where he says, and this is a direct quote, "I love raping you," and also acknowledges that his behavior was abusive and controlling. Now, a lot of people, we of course believe in innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. We think due process, all that. We're not saying lock him up based on an accusation alone. But a lot of people are like, this is the Matrix coming to take down Tate. But this woman reported him to the UK police in 2014, before any of this happened, right? So it's not as if she's coming out of the woodwork suddenly, and she's got some receipts, Hannah. Those are pretty disturbing.
I mean, those are, when I saw that, I was like, what kind of idiot puts this in writing or in a voice memo? Like, per usual, these guys that run around being like, "I'm the alpha male," are some of the dumbest people you will ever actually encounter. And he's just not got up with his own grift yet, but it's coming for him, I think. And so some of his fans who are rabid, who are indoctrinated, and who I think mostly need fathers in their lives, like, they want to say, like, "Oh, he predicted that the state would come from him. They predicted this years ago." And I'm like, yeah, somebody who is raping people probably would predict that eventually they get arrested. Like, that's not some kind of gotcha at all. And yeah, due process, put him on trial, but good grief. I mean, this is absurd to have these kinds of things in print and audio. That's a lot more evidence than you usually get. And it just shows his arrogance, I think. And it's quite disturbing, and it's quite violent, and it comes as no surprise to me, because everything I've learned against this man has been against my will. I've never sought anything out from him. As the Vice documentary actually shows, the way he's gained global prominence is he has this weird degree he sells, where basically you learn how to overtake women. That's what it sounds like. And in order to get his clips shared online, he gives all of these young accounts 50% almost of what it costs to enter that program if they just share his clips and promote the program underneath it. And so you've got all these people desperate for money sharing his clips. And so he doesn't even have to always circulate everything himself online. He has all these little minions doing it for him. And that's mostly how he has entered.
And that makes him kind of unbannable, because they can ban his account, but they can't ban the thousands of fan accounts that all post his TikToks and stuff.
Right.
And he really has built up this empire.
I was going to say, he is raking it in off of these very gullible people. He's got them basically doing his work for him. It's really not an organic audience, right? It's people who are like, it's like a money marketing scheme. It's basically like a, what do you call them? An MLM?
Oh, an MLM, yeah. A multi-level marketing scheme.
That's basically what he's got going on, and he's
a
raking it in
that
from it.
If you drew it out on a map, would start to resemble an ancient Egyptian monument. What is it called? A
Such
pyramid.
A
a pyramid. Yeah.
I mean, he's a basic old pyramid scheme cult leader grifter. Like, there's nothing special about this guy at all. And it's been very apparent in his clips since I first started seeing them that he is part of a nasty underbelly that hates women. I think there are a lot of men in society that are struggling. And I want to say that with empathy, because I think people who fall prey to people like Andrew Tate, I think that comes from a place of like, you're not doing great. You're not thriving in life. You're not doing well. Especially as a man, you feel like you should have a different position of power or prominence that you're not getting, a certain level of respect in your life you're not getting. And you start to become, you start looking for other people to blame besides yourself. And I think women, especially modern women, make an easy scapegoat for that because they're not giving you what you want, right? They're not giving you respect. They're not marrying you. They're not having your babies. They're not cleaning your houses anymore. You have to actually do something to get a woman to want to marry you these days. And it seems like a lot of people in his following want to go back to a time where women were subjects and they were kings. And I just think it's a whole weird fantasy he sold them. Even in watching this documentary, like, I just felt like this is a documentary that would be seductive to 12-year-old boys. Like, they're zipping around sports cars. And he's like, I have all these women cleaning my house. And like, he's trying to act like he's so tough and he's made it. And like, you guys don't have this. And it's just, he's so empty throughout it. He's like showing off his toys. I mean, he just comes across as an emotionally stunted.
It's also, I just got to say, ironically, incredibly homoerotic. All of it. These men shirtless, working out together, constantly showing each other their muscles. It's like, this, it's a little sus.
Okay.
I'm just saying. But no, I agree with your main point, though, to get back on track here. Is like, Andrew Tate doesn't happen in a society where there is not a crisis in masculinity, right? There are so many young men, and some of it is, things that they need to work out themselves, why they're not succeeding in life. But some of it is the way our society is treating young men and telling them that being a man is toxic or whatever it may be. There are very real challenges that young men are facing, and there's not really a positive modern form of what masculinity should look like. We've decided that the old masculinity is toxic and canceled, and some of it was, to be fair. But there's not really a positive vision, I don't think. And a lot of young men feel very adrift. And I can have empathy for that, but I don't think charlatans like Andrew Tate are the answer, but that is what people end up drawn to in a vacuum.
I think that's absolutely right. I do like that you called out the homoerotic nature of it, because that's what I was thinking when I was watching this. I was like, you guys pay $5,000 to let this man beat you up and get on top of you in a ring. Like, okay. And it also gave like major Fight Club, sort of things. Yeah. Like, and I'm just like, Fight Club was a schizophrenic man's like fantasy. Like, that really shouldn't be what you're striving for in real life. I don't know. We do need other outlets for men. We need other examples of masculinity for men. And I think we need to have real conversations about why men and women are just missing each other right now in society as a whole. I really think that a lot of men do not like women. I think they want to have sex with women. I think they want the benefits of being with a woman as far as like what she can add to their lives. But I don't think they always really like women. And I think the reverse can be said of true.
I was about to say, I think a lot of modern women don't like men very much.
They don't. They really don't. I often hear women say, kind of jokingly, but like not really. Like, obviously, being a lesbian isn't a choice because if I could choose, I would be. Right? Like, I hear women say that all the time.
It's a Gen Z young woman vibe to be like, hate men, kill all men, LOL. And they're sort of joking.
But sort of. Really.
But like, yeah. And it's definitely very, very messed up. And there's a lot to unpack there. But we shouldn't be, I think, glomming on and celebrifying, that's not a word, but I made it up, an abuser or alleged abuser it'd be over this. So up next in this Vice documentary on Andrew Tate, a woman named Sally, or her pseudonym, explains that she felt she was physically abused by Andrew Tate when they were together, and she claims that she allegedly saw him sexually assault another woman right in front of her eyes. Take a listen.
He used to strangle us as well. There was another time when he came into the bedroom, me and the other girl, we would sleep in the same bed with Andrew, but at this time the girl had a partner, so she was not interested in Andrew at all. And I had gone to the shower, I came back and I noticed he was like I saw him raping her. And when he threatened to beat me up in the bathroom, and he said, "Oh, I don't give a fuck if you call the police, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you." That's kind of when I knew, you know, I had to get out of there.
Now, these are all British women who are accusing him and who actually went and worked with the police in 2014-15. So again, before The Matrix, before he was a celebrity, any of this. And I find their claims compelling in part because he has essentially admitted that the reason he moved to Romania was to evade accountability in the West that he frames as not having due process, which sometimes it doesn't, but again, the West, England, the US, has the most due process of just about anywhere in the world. It's not perfect, but anyway, take a listen to this clip of Andrew Tate.
People say, why did you live in Romania? And I explain my 5 reasons. One of them is the Me Too era. They go, oh, well, you're a rapist. I say, no, I'm not a fucking rapist. But I like the idea of being able to just say, to do what I want. I like being free. And if you're a man living in England or Germany or America or any of the Western world right now, you've decided to live in a country where any woman, any ex, any fucking bitch who works at Greg's who you bought a pasty from, at some point in the future can destroy your life. This Me Too era bullshit has not protected women. It's just destroyed the safety of men.
So is it just me, or is he kind of giving the game away a little bit in that one?
I mean, that was an eerie... It's crazy to me, the things people say on camera. It gives Brian Koberger vibes, honestly. Like, the things that you're documenting and putting online and saying, it shocks me. It's just stupid as a whole. But, I mean, most criminals are stupid. So, I mean, to me, again, he needs due process. There needs to be a trial. But that sounds pretty on its face to me. Like, that you basically don't want to have the ability for rape victims to investigate you or to bring claims against you, you know, a couple years later. That's the sad reality about statute of limitations. I mean, I kind of disagree on how low the litmus test actually is for the statutes many times, because oftentimes it does take women quite a bit of time to come forward. And I think, you know, as one woman in another Vice piece said, she ended up dating him after he raped her. And that actually is pretty common too. I actually heard, Holly, who had been on, she was one of the playmates that dated Hugh Hefner that was on The Girls Next Door back in the day. So she was, you know, a big name for a little bit. She was like the #1 girlfriend. She was always like, I want to marry Hef. And now, years later, after she's left that sort of abusive situation and moved on in their life, she's talked about how she basically felt like she was taken advantage of the first time they hooked up, but to make sense of it in her mind and to try to be like, oh, that wasn't rape. I still controlled the situation. I can make something out of it. She went on to date him. And I think that actually tracks. I really think that's something that a lot of people will use to try to discount these stories of like, well, if he raped you, why'd you date him?
Well, I actually think that's at play in here. I actually believe Amelia, the first one, did continue to pursue a relationship with him, which is part of why the UK police didn't go forward with the case, because they were like, a jury won't like that. But again, it's kind of a rational trauma response, if it did happen, it's alleged, right? That you would try to form a relationship with this person, and apparently this is a common thing that psychologists will explain, to make it not have happened, right? Because if you're dating someone, then that first time wasn't a sexual assault, right? I mean, it's really sad logic, but it is human.
Yep. I think that's exactly right. And again, it's just one of those instances where we need to do a better job of educating the human population on just how people respond when these things happen to them. And I hope our show can do that for people, because I have seen it up close and I've seen this repeat. This is a pattern, and it doesn't make their story any less true. It also doesn't mean that there shouldn't be, you know, investigations and due process. I really try to toe that line and make sure that we're never just saying the sort of believe all victims kind of narrative. I don't agree with that. I think that there needs to be evidence. There needs to be investigations when people make these kinds of claims. But on the other hand, I think we have to stop victim blaming, and we certainly have to stop saying, oh, if this were true, then your reaction would be this. Because when you say that, especially as someone who's never lived through those kinds of incidents, you are making wild assumptions that you would not made one about you at all. Like, it's the same thing when they say, like, oh, if somebody was truly innocent, then they'd talk to the police or they'd, you know, cooperate with police. And it's like, no, like, that is not the case. Oftentimes, if you're smart, you don't cooperate with police because you know that they can be unscrupulous in some of their activities. So all that to say, things are not black and white when it comes to these situations. There's often a lot of nuance, and I hope that people start becoming more aware of that so that they can be better evaluators of truth and lies and better participants in our justice system, because I actually think that's one of the most important duties you have as a citizen, is to be informed enough to be a good juror, to be active in the justice system and make sure that we are allocating it in a way that is constitutional and fair and that can be upheld, right? To where people still have faith in the justice system and its ability to ensure that we don't put innocent people behind bars, but we also are getting dangerous people off the streets.
So why do you think it is that, I mean, to be fair, a lot of mainstream people have condemned this guy or called him out for some of the toxic things he said for these allegations. Even like Ben Shapiro, for example, has called him out and really held him to account. But a lot of online influencers on the right and in conservative internet culture are defending him, saying like the Matrix, the globalists, they're just all trying to take him out, all this conspiratorial stuff. And it's like, I get why they're saying it, because they've invested a lot in propping this man up, and they'd have a lot of the egg on their face if they admitted what it seems that he is. But they say this is what will happen if anyone speaks out against the establishment. No, not really. Joe Rogan, Jordan Peterson, literally so many people have spoken out against the establishment and never had, almost decades old sexual assault allegations brought up that were filed with police against them from multiple women. I mean, this is not the Matrix taking him out. I that's just so cringe when I see people saying that.
People on the right have got to get a hold of themselves, because they are doing significant damage to their reputation right now. I feel like there are conspiracy theories on the left as well, but the right has increasingly had a propensity to buy into conspiracy theories and to buy into like some things that are just really detached from reality over the past decade that are really hurting their credibility and just making them look kind of Looney Tunes. I mean, the whole idea of like a Matrix coming after this guy, no. Like you said, there are plenty of people who are anti-establishment, plenty of people who speak out against the government, plenty of people who are countercultural. You can't excuse these kinds of allegations as just some grand conspiracy. Like, there are evil people out there who do bad things. And when you start to see credible evidence of that, then you should be on the side of wanting to find out more at the very least, if not standing against them being able to continue those sorts of actions due to their positions of power. I'll never understand that mentality. I also truly don't understand why it is that increasingly on the right, I see the grassroots come to the defense of men who seem to be sexual predators. And
like,
this
that is not a conservative thing, like a social, religious, no.
Even like, and what's funny is like, it's often like these weird trad men online who are like, find you a woman who just wants to have babies, not a boss babe, as if like the boss babes are coming for them. And then they'll be like, you need to have traditional values. And it's like, okay, this guy is literally sleeping with hordes of women that he boasts about. Like,
he got rich off porn.
Like, what are you talking about traditional values, right? There is nothing conservative or trad about any of this. And it's just such a hypocritical, like, they'll be the same people that condemn girls for doing OnlyFans and then praise Andrew Tate for basically running OnlyFans out of his house. Like, I don't understand the hypocrisy. It's rank. I also don't understand how you think this is in any way. Like, they tend to have this, like, if you're with us, you're with us. And, like, the main thing is that we're against the left. And it's like, no, you lose more and more and more people by continuing to let people, these seedy people in your circles. I don't care if he's found guilty or innocent of these things. Nobody should want to associate with someone who speaks this way, period. He's seedy. He's a creep. I mean, he really gives off just, like, totally beta vibes to me, where I'm just like, he's like this sinister little, like, ugh, I'm honestly surprised women would even sleep with somebody like this. Like, he's so gross to me. But I think as long as you let these people in your circles and you don't condemn that kind of language, then you associate yourself with them, and fewer respectable people won't have anything to do with you or your movement. And so you're going to keep losing to the left, actually. Because as much as people dislike the left and what they're doing, they're not simping for people like this.